Welcome back to Max on Boxing. Now time for Max Me Anything. Your questions, my answers. One round. Ring that bell. JPK Metz wants to know, how long will the bubble last on way past their prime boxers drawing large pay-per-view buys? To adapt/steal from Larry Merchant, we've all done that. If Marco Antonio Barrera loved me as much as I love him, we'd be married. But I can't pay money to watch the baby-faced assassin do an exhibition. Then don't. But I have a feeling most of the people who paid money to watch Roy Jones and Mike Tyson fight their exhibition left happy and would pay for a rematch or pay for another one that appealed to them. I know I would. And so I don't know that this is a bubble so much as this is a new kind of business model that may be with us for the foreseeable future. Nate asks, will this generation ever produce a legend like the ones we've seen in the past? The answer is yes, always. Every generation frets that in the old days you had all these guys. Who do you have now? I remember as a kid, in the old days we had Jack Johnson and Joe Louis and Jack Dempsey and Rocky Marciano and Sugar Ray Robinson. And who do you have today? And I'd be like, I don't know, I think Marvin Hagler and Alexis Arguello were pretty good. That's only two guys. Yeah, because they're comparing the history of boxing to today. So look around today. Between Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence and Canelo Alvarez and a bunch of other guys, you think some of these guys won't be seen eventually the same way the legends that you're thinking of are seen? They will be. Akil wants to know, how would the old guys like Muhammad Ali, Sonny Liston, George Foreman, how would they react to professionals fighting YouTubers? Actually, Muhammad Ali fought Inoki, the Japanese wrestler, Antonio Inoki, the Japanese wrestler, in a big exhibition. George Foreman once fought Foreman Fights 5. They were professional fighters, but it was seen as a carnival, right? No, those guys who understood showmanship would understand this stuff too. T asks, who wins, Fury versus Ngannou? Do you think these crossover fights will continue to primarily benefit the UFC or return interest to boxing long term? I don't see it as an either or. First, to answer the question, it's very simple. Tyson Fury wins if they fight in a ring. And obviously Ngannou wins if they fight in the octagon. Had Tyson Fury on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, yeah, duh, no kidding. They could fight 100 times in the ring, 100 times in the octagon. Fury wins every time in the ring, and Ngannou every time in the octagon. And if the UFC and if the boxing industry are smart, they will use these kind of matchups, even if they just remain fantasy matchups, to drive interest in both sports, in combat sports. Logan asks, why does it feel like Taylor Ramirez has flown completely under the radar? They still aren't even selling tickets. Well, it has so far, but not for long. I know on this show we're going to be talking a lot about it. I love that fight. It's evenly matched. It will produce a one and only undisputed junior welterweight champion, and it is going to be a war as long as it lasts. Matt asks, at 47, prime Tommy Hearns versus Floyd Jr. This is a very bad matchup for Floyd. And by the way, even if they fought in their primes in the same era, I don't think you'd have ever seen that fight because I don't think Floyd takes that fight. Tommy Hearns was 6'2". He had a 78-inch reach, and he could knock down the walls of a city with his right hand. Tommy Hearns at welterweight. By the way, Hearns has never been outboxed. He fought Sugar Ray Leonard and Wilfred Benitez. Benitez at 54. He outboxed them. No, Floyd ain't getting in with Tommy. That is a terrible matchup for Floyd. Will asks, why are boxers too scared to fight in MMA and always force MMA fighters to fight in boxing? It's got nothing to do with fear. It's that in boxing there are fewer restrictions on what labor can be paid. More money stays with the fighters than with the promoters. It's one of the reasons it's harder to sell the sport, because you can't control labor costs. It's another reason people want to stage these exhibitions in the boxing ring. The fighters do, because they'll make more money.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.